Ready Check Radio.
Stand by as we get ready to serve up all your news this week in the world of gaming. Welcome to Gaming Gumbo. What's up, Internet? It's Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. That means here on Ready Check Radio, it's time for Gaming Gumbo, your weekly gaming wrap-up. I'm your host, Mike Byrne, a.k.a. Magic Man, as always, and this is episode 141. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on Audible or Spotify, thank you so much. Give it a like, a thumbs up, all the good stuff to feed the algorithm. Excuse me. And, of course, head on over to ReadyCheckRadio.com. All the socials are there. All the backlog of old shows is there. And you can click to follow us on Twitch and join us live with chat here chiming in as we go through all kinds of fun-related gaming stuff. Joining me to do that, Mr. Dom Greco. What's up, boss?
How's it going?
You look more animated this show. Last show you were very...
My mouth is moving. Yeah.
Yeah, you were very stoic and still.
It was. My camera is fixed. My lighting's not perfect, but it's there. And the driveway is all shoveled, so that's the important part.
Yeah, I did that yesterday. My palms are still annoyed with that.
Yeah.
Every time it's like, I obviously hope everybody is being safe through all this fun storm stuff. But every time it happens, I'm like, I should buy a snowblower. And then I'm like, yeah, but this would be like the second time I ever used it. So shovel it is. Also, enjoying a hot beverage there. Resident artist of Ready Check Radio, Yod. What's up, sir?
Freezing my balls off in Georgia. I moved down here to get away from this. What's going on?
I know, right? And it followed you. It just followed you.
I know. It took a few years to catch up, but...
Staying safe, though.
Yeah.
Staying safe, though.
Oh, yeah. We're good. We staying warm. Staying safe.
Good.
Not driving anywhere.
Hope everybody that's listening or watching is too. And, hey, go grab a hot beverage, curl up for about 45 minutes to an hour, and let's talk about some gaming stuff, starting with Ubisoft determined to burn itself down. Just absolutely determined to burn itself
As if
down.
saying the absolute worst thing at the wrong time wasn't already a skill set for them.
Right.
Now what are they doing?
And then we talked about on the show that like huge injection of capital from Tencent and how they were going to have to do some type of plan going forward. Then they spun off a bunch of assets and IPs into a different company, also under you. It was still all very weird. Well, now they have hit their lowest stock price in the last 14 years after they announced, hey, we're going to have some massive restructuring. They canceled 6 projects in development, one of which we don't know. It was unannounced, so we don't know what the hell that was.
Was it Skull and Bones?
It was not. But one we do know that makes me very sad is the Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake, which from all reports was due to come out this year. That one said, and now we're seeing like leaked content and music, and it was just like, and look, I get it. Sometimes games get canceled even very, very late in development. Like that happens. That's not unique to Ubisoft by any stretch of the imagination. And sometimes it's made for, good business reasons. Why, hey, there's such a thing as the sunk cost fallacy, right? If it's going to take $2 million more to get this thing over the finish line, even though the finish line is only 6 months away, and we don't think we're going to make $2 million, then maybe it's just time to cut our losses. That happens, and I don't fault Ubisoft specifically for it. But if you are going to be doing a once-in-a-company's history type restructuring, a very silent mandate to return to office, a re-siloing...
Was it silent?
Well, it was silent in the respect that it was like kind of jammed into the like 3/4 of the way through the official announcement stuff. Like,
Okay.
they tried to just like hide it in the midst of all this other bad news, right?
Because I was gonna say I heard that from multiple news sources.
Yeah, because it was in their announcement, but they did try and like hide it in that announcement. And this is just on top of all their financial struggles to begin with. Oh, by the way, we want to focus more on player-facing generative AI because that's been going really well for so many people, Dom.
Yes. I have a joke with one of my friends there. He's like, I want to get big and successful enough where I could eventually buy Ubisoft and then wipe Assassin's Creed from history. Not even that, like, stop production of Assassin's Creed, but just wipe it from history. And I sent him this link, and I go, you might be getting close.
Yeah, I mean, it's infinitely more affordable today than it was 72 hours ago.
Yeah.
By the way, this is the lowest that their stock price has seen since like 2011, and that year they reported a $74 million loss. I'm just saying. All of these announcements have also, Yod, brought out everybody from the woodwork. Apparently, their internal communications channels at Ubisoft, they went nuts with employees going after managers and telling them that they didn't know what they were doing. It was like no holds barred anymore. We're not going to be nice. Forget it. In France, they're calling for a strike in response to this announcement because there are some different labor laws in various places of the EU where you can't just lay off people like that. Yeah. And the return to office mandate, a lot of companies we've seen that used as kind of like a silent, a soft layoff, right? The people that don't want to return to the office or for whatever reason can't return to the office anymore end up going away and you didn't have to lay them off. So it's just bad all the way across the board right now.
It really is. And I mean, to me, let's forget about the fact that they're probably, fudging the idea that returning to office does anything positive for their company. All right, because they're probably saying that something in returning to the office boosts morale or whatever. Let's not even look at that. But if they're saying they're in financial trouble, so they got to cancel these games, wouldn't you think not having a physical office to pay for would free up a whole lot of money? Just saying. I mean, that might be just me, but I would think that would be one of the first things.
Well, you're assuming that they have the ability to get out of a lease for some of these properties, right?
Sure.
Because we speculated, and many people have speculated, that a lot of these return to office mandates are real estate related, right? These big companies holding 5, 10, 15, 20, 25-year leases on big pieces of real estate that nobody's using.
Right. And I mean, I would hope that if that's the case, they would have tried to sublet it to someone at some point in time. And, I guess it didn't pan out.
Do you even want to be a business in a building that has Ubisoft somewhere on the marquee?
I'm sure. I'm guessing the power
that's a really great rent rate, but no.
Yeah.
No, I'm good,
the
dog.
Power infrastructure to be nice, but yeah, you might get that stink on you.
I mean, I'm sure the Wi-Fi is great.
Right.
So we don't have any numbers for any of this stuff yet, but and this also, in addition to the cancellations, by the way, a lot of things are getting moved from the 2025-2026 fiscal year to 2026-2027. Remember, they're on a fiscal calendar, so that's April through March. We expect Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag remake to be one of those that gets delayed as well. So it's just all around not a good time to be a Ubisoft employee. And it hasn't been for a long time, honestly. It really hasn't been for a long time. Can they get out of this, Dom? Like,
And
they have
yeah.
17,000 or so employees. Obviously, they're going to have less. We don't know how many less. They're doing not just eliminating jobs, but restructuring studios into smaller quadrants that are dedicated on certain projects. And so it's not so much of what they've been doing, where it's like, Studio A does this portion for this game, Studio B does this portion, and things are a little spaced out. Like, in theory, when you look at things and you say, hey, maybe we're not doing things quite the right way anymore. Maybe we're a little too big for the projects that we're taking on. Maybe the bigger projects that we're trying to do haven't done so well, and maybe our structure. Like, assume the best of intentions with looking at this. Can a smaller Ubisoft that's a little more siloed with projects in very specific areas at very specific times, can they rebound? Or is this just going to be the ultimate slow decline into somebody picking up the IPs at an auction?
Yeah, can they? Yes. Will they? Probably not. Like, let's be real. It is possible. It is possible. And I find a lot of the times, like, a smaller team is more intimate and familiar with each other. They cohesively work better together. So they might actually get more done on a smaller scale, get more done in a single project. But when you have large teams, when you're dealing with hundreds of people, not everybody knows everybody on this team, and it takes forever for things to get around. And having the physical office, I will say, is beneficial in a lot of ways for companies, because it's very easy to be like, hey, art team, this is what we're looking for, and then they go in and check, and in real time they're like, yeah, and then they come in and they bring it over, and like, you could kind of keep up with it, what everybody's doing. But when you're working remotely, unless everybody is all together, getting together constantly on some kind of share screen program to show every step of their work, it's very hard to just randomly check in during the day and see how things are going. Not that you need to monitor everybody. I'm not saying that, but it's just, if your team is just looking for direction on something, it's hard to just catch up. It's more, you have to make a definitive point to do it. My company works remotely, and we have it in a system where it works for us. But do I think it would be more efficient if we were in a physical space? Probably. Not saying we're not efficient, but I just think there is something different working physically with someone.
Yeah, I don't know if I buy in as much to that side of your point. I think we live in a world where I don't think there's a productivity negative impact as long as remote versus in person, as long as employees are being held accountable, right? Like, if you are not, but I do like your point on the smaller teams thing. And I think, honestly, a lot of this may have to do with Clair Obscur, right? There are a lot of AAA companies, Yad, that look at what Clair Obscur did in 2025 and go, okay, we're doing things the wrong way. That was 30, 40, 50 people. Yeah, they outsourced a little bit of stuff here and there, so the number's not quite like, 10 people created this. But when you compare that to a standard AAA Ubisoft release that has hundreds of people touching it, they didn't make anywhere near that much. And I think not just Ubisoft, but a lot of companies are looking at Expedition 33 and going, hey, maybe we should try some smaller team, bigger idea stuff.
So I agree with you to a certain extent there, because the problem I see with a lot of the larger companies, as opposed to something like Clair Obscur, is that, and specifically Ubisoft, specifically Skull and Bones, you look at that product and how many times did they replace the director, the helmsman of that title, before that thing actually saw release. And therein lies a lot of the problems.
Yeah.
There's a lot of the problems I see with the games that people complain about after they come out. And,
I don't know if that example's valid, though. Like, I think if Ubisoft isn't... I don't think it is, because if Ubisoft isn't involved in a contract with the government that basically mandates that game has to come out, that first director change is probably a cancellation of the project, not a
But
director
how many other
change.
games have we seen that happen with? I know there was one recently that happened to. I don't remember the name, but didn't like Dragon Age also have that happen? The Veilguard one. And there was a few other like AAA games that they just keep changing out directors and this and that and your vampire game. It got to the point where they changed studios completely.
Mm-hmm.
So, stuff like that is what makes these games have cost overruns, and it just doesn't come out on time, and they just have this problem and that problem with it. And when they finally shit out a game, well, it's shit.
Yeah.
Well, it's even you get a different project manager coming in and it's a different vision, right? It goes and it takes a different direction, and then it's like, okay, well, you change this one thing, but then it changes like the whole core fundamental of like an already established system. So it's kind of like this trickle effect where you change one thing and like 7 other systems now seem pointless, so then you have to change those, and it's before you know it, one change has this ridiculous trickle effect that changes so many things that it's just like unquantifiable. And then it's just like the game is not the same thing it was,
Exactly. And where would Clear Obscure, they had a team, they had a vision, and they forged ahead with it. Period.
But and again, to Cal is saying, hey, I hope the industry doesn't copy Expedition 33. That wasn't a game for Tikal, and that's fine. Like if you look at the genre or the story or the narrative or the production value, and you say, hey, that's not for me. I don't think I'm looking at it saying that these companies are looking at it saying let's copy what they did.
Right.
I think the game industry, when you start talking about the big dogs, right, the AAA dogs. None of them have been the trend makers for decades now, right?
Oh, yeah.
They are
Nintendo.
I would argue that the last time Nintendo was a trend maker was on the hardware side, not the software side, and it was with the Switch. With the original Switch.
Switch, Wii, they've been innovating hardware for a while, but yeah.
I'm speaking strictly software, AAA company game development. None of them are the trend makers. They just aren't, and they haven't been for a long time. They saw the rise of free-to-play. They adopted that late. They saw the rise of microtransactions. They adopted that late. They latch on. They saw the live services start to take off. They adopted that. And so I do think there is kind of this little bit of a knee-jerk reaction to look at what Clair Obscur was able to do with what they were able to do it with. Mm-hmm. How do we replicate that in X, Y, and Z genres or X, Y, and Z games to get the biggest bang for our buck? Not necessarily to copying exactly what they did.
Right.
Which
not copying the content, copying the strategy.
Right.
Yeah, we're talking more workflow and production side, not the game itself.
Yeah, I mean, I wish all of our friends over at Ubisoft the absolute best. Absolute best. And we'll
get that Sands of Time remake out somehow.
Yeah.
That breaks my heart.
Yeah.
It really does. Like that's when you kind of realize the company's in trouble. That would be like Konami canceling Silent Hill 2 remake before it came out. You know what I mean? Like that means there's something drastically wrong if you're canceling one of your flagship titles.
Yep.
Right.
This week we also had the Xbox Direct, so let's take a look at a few of the Xbox Developer Direct. Let's take a look at a few of the titles that were revealed there. They're never like a huge show where it's like 20 titles are shown. I kind of like that. Mm-hmm. It's a shorter show. Yeah. Here's 4 or 5 games that we have coming up. Of course, we'll be talking about Fable in just a minute, something we had mentioned on our last show.
Fable? What's that?
First let's start with this one, because I honestly was like, what the hell is this? And then I was like, Dom has pre-ordered this. Like, Dom has absolutely pre-ordered this.
Why? Because it gives off Nintendo vibes?
It definitely does. So this is Kiln from Double Fine, a studio that I absolutely love. And this is kind of them. They describe it as their new foray into fun, asking this question: what would it look like for a game to combine the beautiful expression of creation with all the chaotic fun of destruction. And if you think this stuff looks like pottery, you are right. That's because it is. A kiln being what you cure and fire pottery in to make sure that it's all ready to be used and not all clay soft. You create your own different pottery things, and then it's a 4v4 brawler.
Okay.
I don't know if I would... I mean, I feel like, Dom, that I would play this once just to see how goofy it was. But I don't know if it wasn't a Game Pass type thing or anything like that. I don't know if I'd be paying for this even as much as I like Double Fine. But I was convinced that you probably pre-ordered this.
I did not, but it gives off very Nintendo-y, like Splatoonish vibes. You know, it's got like that cartoony feel to it. It has Nintendo energy. It really does. I don't know how best to describe it. It has Nintendo energy. It seems like it'd be fun, but it's like you said, I might play it once or twice. I can't justify spending the cost on it. I'm not a huge fan of multiplayer games, just because I tend to fall off. I'm not a reliable person to be able to be somewhere, on a schedule all the time, and I get sick of things really fast, and I like to travel. So I just don't have the time to commit to being like, yeah, let's play, and I don't know. And by the time I'm ready to play, everybody else is falling off, and then I'm like, why did I buy this? Nobody's playing with, it's like I've given up on multiplayer games.
I like Double Fine. It's cute. It could be creative, and there have been plenty of titles, Yod, like this that are like really high on my artistic expression meter, but really low on the I really want to play that I have then played and been like, oh, okay, yeah, this is staying installed. And maybe this will be that. But this is one that I really, for me at least, I have to see on Game Pass. I don't want to spend money on this first.
Yeah, it's really cute, but of all the artistic abilities, pottery was never one of mine.
One that I did not put the trailer in here for, because I think we're just going to touch on it quickly, is Beast of Reincarnation. That is being described by the team. Game Freak called it a one-person, one-dog action RPG. Combat looked pretty slick. It was very I don't know. I got shades of Bayonetta, Yod. Did you? It was like very high speed, and there was some tactical stuff in there too, but.
Yeah, it looked like it might be interesting, but I don't know.
The game looks beautiful, right? Really I just don't know about the mix of the fantasy and the sci-fi elements. That's that's what's got me, because it's like I'm still turned off from Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, like the machinery in the fantasy set. I don't know. I don't like it mixed.
There's a way.
There is, and I know, but I don't like it. I don't like it. Keep my sci-fi and my fantasy separate. It's why I'm not a fan of steampunk. I don't like when you clash genres like that,
So for me, I mean, if you can integrate them well together, it can work. I mean, like Final Fantasy tends to do it pretty good these days.
It was like the last couple, because I didn't like the
last couple were a little iffy, but I mean, as long as it's not jarring. Like yesterday, the wife and I was watching some anime, and it had a fantasy element where the big bad guy's sitting in a stone throne, and he's got this massive castle and stuff, and then they go to a mall with a claw machine and arcade and stuff. And it's like, what? So yeah, I get where you're coming from.
I thought Final Fantasy 15 kind of blended fantasy and modern.
The car?
There was no steampunk there.
Is that the one with the car?
Yeah,
that's Bro Trip. Yeah. That's Bro Trip.
Yeah, I thought that did pretty well.
The only reason that I won't play that one is because I watched one of my friends, granted he's a speedrunner, but all he was doing to get anywhere was just dashing, and it was just like that jump dash teleport thing was ridiculous to me.
Yeah. I mean that's very different though when you're watching a speed run of it.
yeah. So I don't know. It just turned me off from the game, so I never bothered with it.
Speaking of the car, Forza Horizon 6 is going to launch on May 19th. There's that segue. That's going to be on the Xbox Series X and S. Xbox on PC, Xbox Cloud, Steam, Xbox Play Anywhere, handheld optimized, or Game Pass Ultimate if you want to. Coming later in 2026 to the PlayStation 5. And they did kind of have like a little sidebar on that they are trying to work on better syncing up their releases so that they are on Xbox and Sony at the same time. This wasn't like a timed exclusivity thing. This was a development thing, and they addressed that they're working on that. So if you want to get into Forza, you'll be able to a little later this year. They're calling it the largest and densest map of any Horizon game to date. And then they have like 550 cars to collect and customize at launch. So that doesn't even count any of the DLC or additional content that will come later. The big dog at the show, though, was obviously Fable. And it was probably the one that I was most interested in personally seeing. Now, remember, this is coming from Playground Games. This is not part of Peter Molyneux's company or any of the people that worked on the previous Fable, although they did have access to a ton of like the documentation for all of those Fables when they were making this. This is also going to release later this year in autumn. And that's also on all the platforms and Game Pass Ultimate, so you won't have to purchase it if you are still an Ultimate subscriber. Now, before I give any of my takes on some of the things here, Dom, I'm going to go with you first. I don't want my opinions to taint anybody, good or bad. What do you think of the teaser and some of the direction for the newest Fable?
So I think, this is such a mixed bag for me. Let me clarify that I've not played the original Fables. I've not played any of the Fables. They're
not
on
even
my
the first one.
No, they're on my. I have.
Oh wow!
Let me look. I have one of them on Steam. Which one do I have? I have Fable 3 and the Lost Chapters on Steam. I've not played them yet, but I own them. I was planning to get to them one day, but we know how that is. They're still sealed. They're still sealed in the package. So with that being said, I'm cautiously optimistic when you get a new team to come into a franchise like this, because when you have the same team working on something, even a beloved Fable, a franchise like Fable, right? You can find things start getting stale after a while,
and they did,
and they did, yeah, absolutely. So bringing a new team in breathes some fresh air into it, takes a different take on it that the original team might not have even thought to take because they're so set in their ways. So I am excited having a brand new team come in. I have heard such great things. Our friend Indy is a huge Fable fan.
Yeah.
She loves that game, and she had been trying to get me to play it for so long because she wanted me to.
I can't believe you've never
immerse
played
myself in it the way she did. I know. So it was one of those things where it's like I hate jumping into series in the middle. I'd want to go and do one and then, work my way through. And that's a lot of time commitment to go.
Yeah.
So something like this, where it's almost like a reboot, I'd be more willing to just kind of like jump into this one and just say, forget the others,
So overall, you liked what you saw in the trailer and the developer interview afterwards that they posted on the Xbox blog and everything.
As someone who's never played the original, keep that in mind. So that to me, this looks interesting.
All right, Yod.
I am actually with the same boat as Dom, as I have never played the originals, but my wife has, and we have all the original
give her the fucking mic
over there. Well, we had a conversation while watching the trailer together and stuff like that, and she's the major thing was there was a lot of promises made in the original games that were never fulfilled.
Yep.
I like the ability to make certain choices, this and that, and all the other stuff that comes with an open RPG like that just didn't happen back then. And she's like, will this happen with the new game? Much like Dom, personally, it looks good to me, and I wouldn't mind jumping in on this game as it is.
Okay, so somebody who actually has played a fucking video game here.
One second, Mike, before you jump in, I just want to address. To Cal in chat says, But what if I like set in their ways? I never understood why people want franchises to innovate. Look where innovation has gotten Final Fantasy. I just want to use Sonic the Hedgehog as an example. As one
I would
who's
also
played
argue
many
that Final
Sonic the
Fantasy
Hedgehog
didn't
games.
innovate. It,
You know?
to my earlier
So-
point, it tried to trend chase. But anyway,
Sure. But like you look at Sonic, right? And the side-scrolling games were beloved, right? And then they kind of moved into like this 3D environment where they tried, and they saw Mario going in that direction. Mario did
and
it.
the Dreamcast
a lot
3D
better.
ones were beloved. Sonic Adventure
Sure.
and Sonic Adventure 2 were, well, more
Sure.
Sonic Adventure, but they were amazing
Took
games.
them yeah. And then I don't know what happened, right? The series just went for a turn. And then it took a team of like indie people to come in and do, what was it called? Sonic Mania? Because Sonic the
Yeah, the
Hedgehog 4
collection, yeah.
failed.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Sonic 4 failed so hard. And that was like, I don't want to say the original team, but there were some original people that they were like discussing with when they made that game. And Sonic 4 was awful. But Sonic Mania came out, and that was a whole separate set of people that weren't even involved with Sega. That was like a group of passion project, like mod hack people that came in and were hired. They made this brand new Sonic game that was a side scroller as a fan, and they kept it simple, like the side scrolling stuff that you're used to, but they innovated a bit on stuff that Sega never would have done and never taken in that direction. So like they definitely brought it back to like what I would have expected Sonic to have come from a natural evolution if they had stayed in the 2D era and like changed up project leads and stuff here and there. So it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to go into a direction where you innovate and change. You don't want to get stuck in the same repetition loops, because your game is going to be the same thing over and over and over again. And nobody wants to play the exact same game with a different skin on
Well,
it.
and there's also more than one way to innovate, right? Like Square Enix, if you look at them since Final Fantasy was brought up, if you look at Final Fantasy VI for the Super Nintendo and then 7 for the PlayStation 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are party-based, turn-based RPGs.
Yes.
But there was innovation in, let's skip graphics because that's kind of an obvious one, right? And the jump from 2D to 3D. So let's kind of skip that one. But they did innovate on that front. But let's skip that. But storytelling, that was very innovative, the way they jumped into 7. The music composition and inclusion, like you can innovate in a ton of different ways. It doesn't have to be that this game looks totally different than the one previous to it. I am a little bit with Takal here, and Takal and I agree, particularly when it comes to Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy 16, although I enjoyed that game more than Takal did, it was a one-shot and done for me. There's no reason that I can think of that I would ever go back and play Final Fantasy 16, and that certainly didn't innovate to me. It trend chased with the action combat games of like a Devil May Cry type game. Fable. I do expect a certain amount. To your point, Dom, I think what your Sonic example to me isn't necessarily innovation. And you use the word evolve, and I think that's more what it is. It's an evolution, not innovation. And I think we kind of can conflate those at some times. If we're talking fully innovate, take what worked and do something totally different, I think we all agree that maybe some franchises shouldn't do that. Final Fantasy needs to stick to a little bit of its core roots to keep the core audience that it has and evolve with that audience rather than necessarily innovate with something mind-blowingly new, unless you want to take the shot at being the next Expedition 33, right? Maybe that'll work, maybe it won't. Fable, I am not exactly sure about this one. And that's somebody that loves the Fable
What is
franchise.
your holdup?
I love the Fable franchise. And the first one to me is, it's close between 1 and 2 as to my personal favorite. Here's some things that I like. I like that, at least from what they've said in the interviews, they have created an open world where once you are through kind of like the opening thing and you are able to leave the first town, that you can go anywhere. There is no like level gating or stuff like that. If you want to just not follow the kind of story they've laid out, which they've said is a bit of a soft narrative anyway. They're not just, hey, go here, do this, go here, do this. They kind of give you the hint that your grandmother said, heroes like you, there is a heroes guild. Maybe you should seek some advice there. And then you leave the town, and whatever the hell you do from that point is up to you. I like that. I like open world games, and I do like the ability to pick a direction and go in it sometimes. I also like the ability to just follow a narrative. So the fact that they're catering to both, I kind of dig. Visually, I think it looks kind of neat too. I'm okay with the graphics and everything. I love the Fable series. One of the things that I am not, that I'm a little concerned about, is this, what seems to me to be a little bit of a shying away of one of the core tenets of the original Fable games. And that was the ability to be good or be evil. This game does let you make decisions that are good or evil. But in the previous games, there were actual mechanics involved around making those decisions. Your character looked different. Your character interacted with people differently. People interacted with your character differently if they would interact with you at all. And while I can appreciate what they say, again, this is all verbal from their interview, what they say they're trying to do here is that nothing is inherently just good or evil enough to tick a meter one way or another. They give the example of kicking a chicken, right? If you by yourself kick a chicken, that's not necessarily a good decision or an evil decision if nobody is around to see why you kicked the chicken, right? If you're just off by yourself, there is no reason for the rest of the world to know that you've kicked a chicken and then to deem that a good or an evil act. And so the townspeople, they don't know about that. But conversely, if people see you kick chickens and they keep seeing you kick chickens for no apparent reason, people might not be okay with that when you go to their town. Or sometimes messages can get to other towns. Now, how that'll impact gameplay, we don't know yet. We're going to have to see that. But I just always thought there was something cool, and I get where they're going. Nobody's ever truly good or truly evil, but that was like a core power fantasy in my Fable experiences, like becoming the paragon of virtue and the towns sing my praises as I enter, or everybody's cowering in their house when I come in. Which, by the way, every house in here has an interior that you can go in and explore because all of the NPCs are running on their own systems of jobs and they have to have a bed at night. They're almost Sims the way they described it, right? They didn't use the word Sims, but I'm going to use it. And in fact, at one point, they were doing some testing and they couldn't figure out during the daytime why a town was empty. And then when they go and do some troubleshooting to go look at it, they figured out that the pathing for everybody to get to their jobs, it was taking them so long to get to their jobs that they never got there by the time their shift ended. So the town was empty during the day, and then everybody was in bed at night. So I do like some of that type of stuff. It sounds very like Nemesis system, trademark, I know, copyright. So, yeah, I don't know. I am certainly interested in a reimagined Albion that is not beholden to any of the stories of the previous Fables. But I feel like there is a core component that you probably shouldn't have innovated, iterated, evolved on in this one, and you better get it right, because that, to me, is a big part of Fable, that whole good-evil back and forth.
But someone who, once again, has not played the original, but like to their point, like if you're in one town and you're known as like a murderer or a thief, right, and then you go to another town, they don't know your history, right? So why should that town instantly like have any reason to dislike or distrust or whatever?
Because by the time you get to that town, you look like a piece of shit. Like your character looks like a piece of shit. I don't know. It's going to be weird to see. I hope that it still creates a compelling reason for you to want to play with the ambiguity of good versus evil and good choices, bad choices, stuff like that. But if you're expecting like a morality meter or anything like that, this game don't have it, son. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
One I'm certainly interested in, But as a Fable fan, I don't know.
But
Speaking of the Nintendo Direct, the rumors are right now, as far as other live showcases, that there will be another Nintendo Developer Direct this year. Sony is rumored to be, again, all rumors, rumored to be having another State of Play in February. And that kind of makes sense because their last one was like that Japanese-only one, so we really haven't had a State of Play that was global since like September. The Nintendo Direct is actually coming up this week. That's a really specific one, though. That's on Tamagotchi Life, Living the Dream. So if you're not interested in that game, you can probably skip it. And then Blizzard is going to be hosting a series of streams starting on January 29th. Not just for World of Warcraft, where we get the State of Azeroth and stuff like that, but there will be individual streams for individual Blizzard IPs and franchises as the company celebrates its 35th anniversary. They're kind of doing a special stream for each IP.
Is that where they re-announce StarCraft Ghost?
I would imagine that that's going to be a BlizzCon thing. That's probably going to be and if they're going to do a WoW Classic Plus, that's probably going to be a BlizzCon thing. Like, I don't think they're going to be dumping. I'm sure there's going to be announcements on these, but probably nothing.
So you're telling me we have to wait till what, September?
Yeah. I mean, you're going to get something, Dom. You get an expansion in a month. Settle down. Settle down.
But StarCraft.
You're getting an expansion for your WoWs in a month. Settle down.
Hey, but I need to buy another collector's edition so I can have more things in WoW.
More WoW stuff. Last topic before we head over to some miscellaneous news. I think we would be remiss if we didn't at least mention Highguard. I know this is all kind of developing right now. And so we'll have to come back to it in a few days or a month here. Highguard was the game that was showcased, dead last at the Game Awards. And we all kind of wondered why. In fact, I think it was you and Troy that were on the show, that we were reviewing the show. And I said, tell me what the last reveal was, and neither of you could remember it. That's how little of an impression it left. Now, we know it costs hundreds of thousands, and in some cases, $1 million or more for some of the advertising time in those shows, whether it's full reveals or anything like that. Now, Jeff Keighley was apparently so enamored with Highguard that it got the last billing there.
Dom, about that tech and fantasy that you don't like being melded together.
Yeah. So since then, it's been a bit dicey on the Highguard front, with very little to see and people not exactly knowing what the hell was happening. And was it going to release on the 26th of January like it was supposed to? And yes, it did. It is free to play on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox right now. Went live yesterday. There was a whole launch stream, and they revealed plans for the next year and everything. And on Steam, a little less than 100,000 people jumped in on launch day. That's just on Steam. Just on Steam. However, it's kind of already racked up thousands of negative reviews. Now, some of that is obviously review bombing and things like that, because the game can't possibly live up to the hype that Jeff Keighley and the Game Awards put on it.
It was hype.
Everything I've seen from the game just shows that it's mid. Like, it's okay. It's a 3v3 shooter, so I'm not exactly sure why we're making such a big deal out of like big siege weaponry and everything when it's really 3-on-3 combat, but whatever. There's some performance issues on launch day. This isn't an early access. It is free to play, but it has all the monetization that you would expect, so this is a full launch. And yeah, to me, looking at it, I wouldn't play it. It's just not my type of game. But every stream I've watched and everything just seems like, okay, this seems kind of run-of-the-mill and it's doing some things okay and some things not okay, and performance right now is one of them. I give them 48 hours on that. It's launch, but I perhaps even that is too generous for most of the internet, Dom. Like perhaps even that is too generous.
I just pulled up their Steam reviews. The top review on my feed right now is basically as if I wrote this, right? I skimmed this really quick, right? It says, "I mostly just feel bad for the devs. The game clearly wasn't designed or prepared for this level of scrutiny. Everything is blurry and unclear. The map is the size of Latvia, but you only have 3 players, so most of your time is spent running around the map looking for something to kill. It's saying it's a fast-paced shooter, but also the merchant makes you go mine rare earth metals to buy stuff. The characters are profoundly bland and uninteresting, and the art direction is just like they dumped every cool idea into a vat. What if there was magic? What if there was guns? What if you could ride a bear? What if there was Excalibur? What if there was a giant siege tower? The game isn't fun, and it isn't interesting. All that said, it's free."
Yeah, I almost feel like it would have been better served if it would have YOLO launched into an early access as part of the Game Awards.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Like, didn't enable their cash shop and had last billing. And by the way, early access, free to play available now, no cash shop until season 1, Because that now season pricing and cosmetic pricing, that's all in their reviews and everything too. And you're charging. You're a free-to-play product, but you are asking for money now. I don't think you could have lived up to any of the hype Jeff Keighley was. I mean, Jeff Keighley was actually getting accused on Twitter all over the place of having money involved in this game and its performance, to which he did reply to somebody, absolutely not. But the way he was hyping it up was like whole new level. And there's every review that I've seen where I like actually read some of the good reviews is even the good reviews are like, it's an okay game. Like, there's some journalistic websites that are like rating it 8, 9 and change out of 10. I don't see anything that's pushing that for me. I tend to agree with the more moderate reviews that are like, it's an okay game. It's not doing anything special. Maybe it will in the future. There are performance issues. It's got a ton of eyes on it. That's a good thing, but it's turned into a bad thing for them because now the headlines 24 hours later, Yod, are yesterday on launch day, you had 98,000 players on Steam. Now you have 18.
Yeah. I mean, the best one that I read on the review page was like, it's okay. It's free to play. There's some interesting aspects, but it really should be a 3v3v3 because there's like from what I understand, there's like 4 or 5 different spawn points you can choose from or something with different your defensive castles, and with only 2 of them being used, why?
Yeah.
If there's so many different castles you can choose from on a single map, why are you only using 2 of them? Throw in a 3rd group or a 4th group for, more chaos. And, once again, then you'll have someone to shoot.
Yeah, I don't think it does anything necessarily too egregious right now, besides just being an average shooter. Although I did kind of like one tweet I saw, Dom, that said, "High equals over. Guard equals watch." And I was like, yeah, high and guard over and watch. Yeah, okay, all right, fine. I get you.
That's probably what they were going for.
It's one I'm going to have to watch over the next couple of weeks because obviously some of this is going to level out, right? Like the huge people that are just out for blood right now and want to see it pull another Concord, they're all over it right now.
The biggest criticism that I've seen everywhere is just the map is too big for the size of the games that they have going. So maybe if they figure out something to add more players onto the map, like that might save this game. But if they just keep it going at the pace that it's at, I don't think there's any saving it. So
yeah. Well, the other thing is, like you said earlier, Dom, you're in that review you read, they're having you mine stuff in one area, and it's supposed to be a PvP shooter. Choose a lane.
Yeah.
choose a lane. What are you? Are you a mining and gathering game, or are you a shooter, or are you a siege weapon caller game? What's going on here?
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on this one, I think. Keep an eye on this one. All right, let's hit you with some rapid fire news here and get your thoughts on a bunch of these. First off, Steam, their lawsuit against Steam in the UK is given permission to go forward. This is a big lawsuit trying to hit them for $900 million. 656 euro, $900 million class action lawsuit in the UK. Originally filed by some digital rights advocates or activists and backed by the Milberg London LLP. That's a law firm that specializes in kind of defending victims' rights and corporate wrongdoing and stuff like that. They are alleging that Steam or Valve specifically has rigged the market and is taking advantage of UK gamers by contractually obligating publishers and developers to not sell their games on other platforms at lower prices than the versions available on Steam, forcing then Steam to always have the best deal, overcharging, excessively charging with the 30% commission for every sale, and then locking people out from having DLC that they purchase on other platforms be compatible with what they've bought on Steam, thus forcing you to, if you buy a game on Steam, continue to buy things on Steam for the DLC for that game because anything else isn't compatible. Now, there are other similar lawsuits right now, and the same group is challenging Apple and PlayStation, so this isn't exclusively Valve. And Valve's got its own problems here in the US with profits and consumer commissions and things like that. So we don't know where this is going to go, but it was allowed to move forward with a new ruling that just got announced prior to the show today. Do you think there's any chance, Dom, that this goes anywhere?
Maybe, because I don't know, how the legal systems work in these other countries. They very well may have a leg to stand on. To the best of my knowledge, if this was in the U.S., I'd say they'd probably throw this out of court. But we're not dealing with that.
Yeah, I think the leg that's probably the weakest here is the whole locking you into DLC, because every company
that kind
does
of broke my brain.
Right, like if I buy the game on PlayStation, I can't buy the Xbox DLC and expect it to work on my PlayStation. Hell, even games that are cross-platform don't always work that way. Now, a lot of them do these days, but they don't always. So,
no. I mean, when I was still playing Destiny 2, I had to buy 2 different versions when I moved from PlayStation over to my gaming machine, my PC, because that's how that works. You buy a game on a platform, you have to buy everything that goes with it on that platform, and it stays on that platform.
In most cases, not always.
Yeah, in most cases. I would say 95% of the cases. The locking in prices thing and having that might be something.
Yeah,
it all depends.
That's kind of the one that I think is their strongest leg, if they can prove it, is that Steam is locking companies into contracts where you can't put a sale price up on another platform that's less than Steam. You have to give us equal to or best sale pricing. If you could prove that, then maybe there's a case there. So I think bits and pieces of this are stronger than other bits and pieces of this. So
never be upset to have my DLC, that I have on Steam, like be compatible with DLC I purchase.
Hashtag free the DLC.
Yeah.
No.
Dom, how excited are you? How excited are you?
Oh my God.
I'm very, very excited. There's so much to unpack in this trailer. It's absolutely ridiculous. I flipped my shit when I saw this. right? I don't even care about Yoshi, right? I don't give a flying fuck about Yoshi. The thing to me, the thing to me that sold the attention to detail, right? That they have in here is the sequence of Princess Peach fighting Birdo, right? In it, they're fighting in a casino, right? And in a casino, you have the slot machines, all that stuff. You're thinking, what does this have to do with anything? Everything. It has everything to do. Super Mario Brothers 2 in the US. When you play that game after you beat every single level, a slot machine plays, right? So not only that, they're making a reference to Super Mario Brothers 2. In it, you can see Claw Grip, the crab boss, flipped upside down. One of the other ones. Mauser's over there with his sunglasses, his shades knocked down. I feel like all the Super Mario Brothers 2 bosses are lurking in this casino. That makes me so incredibly happy. I can't even begin to tell you the amount of Easter eggs they've dropped in this thing. I'm looking so forward to this as a Mario fan. It's ridiculous.
I sat there with a stupid grin on my face watching it with the first one with my family. I will definitely be in a theater April 1st seeing this one.
Definitely. Just the opening sequence of them getting the flower out and grabbing the flame, and it just goes down their arm and changes the costume. That was amazing.
Yeah, and that's the continuation of the after credits scene from the first one.
Right. That's just...
Luigi in the frog suit. Like, there's so many things. You know
So
what I mean?
much.
Like, it's so good.
Speaking of Nintendo, Hideki Kono is leaving the company, veteran designer, 60 years old, involved in said Super Mario Brothers 2 and 3 / Doki Doki Panic when it comes to number 2. Luigi's Mansion, Super Mario World level designer, all kinds of some. Mario Kart is probably the one he's best known for. And that's on top of Kensuke Tanabe, who joined the company in 1986 and did Metroid and that stuff, Metroid Prime 4, he said that's probably his last game. So a few departures from Nintendo. And then if we want to go right back into court, taking a look at this lovely chart here. I'll give credit where it's due. Jacob Wilson, 2727 image credit here. Some Hasbro shareholders are suing the company, saying that it has misled investors regarding sales of Magic the Gathering's anniversary set, and that they are mismanaging the business by overproducing cards, and that is hurting the profitability of the company. So shareholders suing the company that they hold the shares for, that's usually never good when that happens. Like, it's just never good. We've seen Square Enix have some shareholders talk about doing it or try to rally the troops around them. But here we actually have Hasbro shareholders asking courts to say that, hey, as shareholders, we're adequate representatives of Hasbro and therefore can sue on behalf of the company itself, and that each of the individual defendants have failed in their fiduciary duties. They're also seeking that Hasbro be awarded damages from each individual defendant, and that the shareholders be given significantly more power on the board of the company. And I think it's genuinely just look at the image, right? It is hard to argue that they have been overprinting or releasing sets too quickly, too many sets too quickly, which can hurt the value of existing sets because you get into reprints and all that fun stuff. But then they also
see exactly where I started playing Magic on that map. That's crazy.
But then they also said that they have found that the $1,000 30th anniversary set, which was kind of a dumb set to begin with, and then was like immediately taken off of sale. They said, hey, man, you misled us on that. You made posts on Twitter implying that they had sold out to try and make it look like the product was more popular than it was. In the lawsuit, the plaintiffs are saying that the company claiming the product was out of stock, and that wasn't true. In fact, they claim to have photographs of Magic anniversary sets being dropped off in a Texas landfill. So, yeah.
Is it next to the ET game?
Yeah, it's actually right with them. They're going to hang out.
Damn.
Hey, if you want a job, Dom, at Pocket Pair Games, the Power World developers, they're going to ask you an interesting interview question. They're gonna say, "Hey Dom, let me see your Steam profile."
It's private. What do you want to see that for?
Well, apparently in the interview they questioned candidates about the top most played titles in their Steam libraries, explain game mechanics, say what did they think of certain mechanics, and what makes the game stand out against others in the same genre. They are saying we recruit game creators who are true Steam players. And even if you are only a console player, they'll ask to see that too. But they're really interested in colleagues that play indie games that may only be available on Steam, given that, that's the type of projects they've been working on. So what do you think? At first, you read the headline and I'm sure you're like, oh, that's cool. They're looking to see if people that are going to create games are gamers. And then you kind of go, well, wait a minute. If I can code and I like doing this, what if I just don't like playing these? I love creating them, but I don't like playing them. I don't know.
If you have any desire to turn a resume in a Pocket Pair, just start opening up random games and leaving them running overnight. I don't know what to tell you. Because your playtime really equates to your skill, knowledge, or whatever on the game. But no, the follow up questions about the game knowledge, the mechanics, what you like, dislike, those are all I feel appropriate questions in the industry. Your playtime, your choice of games, not so much. That's not anybody's business. Who whatever, but I do think there is value in saying, hey, have you played any of these games? If so, what did you like about them? What's your favorite mechanic, etc.
Yeah, Yad, I'm really interested in your take on this because I think I can put this into a unique perspective here. You are an artist, but you hate playing video games. You love
I don't hate
no.
games.
I'm not. It's a hypothetical. It's a hypothetical.
Okay.
You are an artist, but you hate playing video games. It's just not for you. You have other things you want to do. You have other hobbies, but you love drawing anime characters, video game characters, environments, and stuff like that.
Right.
If you hate gaming, this type of, hey, let me see your Steam library, could disqualify a very talented artist from getting into the industry.
Would. I mean, that is one major point. You have a very good point there. The whole Steam library or whatever console library, looking at that, like Dom said, that's a bit invasive. I don't like that. The follow-up questions for coders and stuff, totally get it. Mechanics, this, that. What do you think about this? What do you think about how this game plays out? That type of thing. I think that is important. On the concept design side, we're talking graphics and art and stuff like that. I don't think that's as important. In this case, what games do you play? Do you play indie games? This, that. I think that's more of a will you fit in with our company culture question. Because that is one major thing is. Yeah, that is one major thing is if you are, say, you may enjoy drawing Metroid characters, anime characters, whatever, but you are more of a fine artist type person and get along with those people more, you might not mesh well at the PAL World office.
Yep.
So, I mean,
it's I initially read the headline and I was like, that's kind of cute. As a gamer, I'm like, that's cool. I like that. And then as an HR employee, as somebody who looks at HR data as part of their job, I was like, actually, that's kind of a nightmare, actually.
Well, that's the thing. I do want to point out in here that this doesn't say everybody in the company. This is the game designers. Those are the ones responsible for, making the mechanics, the rules, the player experiences, things like that. That's not like their concept artists and things like that. So
exactly.
these are the ones that the design, game mechanics. So like they want to know what you know about game mechanics in other games. It's almost a requirement that you have to be able to play other games to be able to design games. Like almost like in that field. Not saying it's the only way to do it, but you should know the trends. You should know what you're up against.
Right.
Last two quick hits, so then we can call it a day. Donald Trump is being blamed for the lack of a Resident Evil Requiem collector's set. It's true though. That's the worst part of this headline. When I saw this headline, I was telling y'all just before we got on live, I saw this article, right? And I was like, this is the most clickbaity title I've ever, and then I went, no, they're not wrong. Capcom, who just released some very good financial numbers this past week, says that there's no collector's edition in their response to players questioning it after the Requiem showcase reveal the other last week or the week before, saying, hey, there's just too much uncertainty with the tariffs. Didn't know how things are going to pan out, what things will look like 5 months from now, 8 months from now, 12 months from now. But somehow they still found a way to sell you the digital goods, which, okay, fine, that one's easy. That's fine. But there's also 1/6 scale statues of Leon and Grace that'll be available for purchase at various retailers, even though the tariffs prevented a collector's set. So take that how you will. They found a way.
Say this out loud.
They found a way to get some physical goods in anyway. So
just be glad that we don't have tariffs on downloads.
That's true. And in another UK case, the judge, I should say the appeals judge, because the first judge said no, but the appeals court says yes. Your RuneScape gold pieces are real property, and that is bad news, according to Rock Paper Shotgun, for the person accused of stealing 705 billion of them, allegedly worth £500,000. Now, we talked about this when it happened years ago. Lord Justice Popplewell has ruled on an appeal that RuneScape's gold pieces are legal property, which is important for a developer that we talked about a year or so ago that was stealing them from accounts in like 2018. Andrew Lakeman is the one accused of stealing them from 68 different players. And so until now, the case couldn't really move forward while they debated on whether or not he had actually stolen property or not. And the initial ruling was that no, it doesn't meet the rival risk requirement or some other UK requirements to be considered property that could be stolen. Well, the appeals court says we don't think the first judge got it right. This is property, and therefore go to court. What
happens if RuneScape servers go offline and everybody loses their gold?
Then we all sue RuneScape for stealing our property. Let's go and do games of the week. Games of the week is the way we end every episode of Gaming Gumbo here. Let me just get my timestamp. 1:07:53. It's where all of us recommend a game for you. Could be a video game, board game, card game, mobile game, something we've played in the past, or playing now, or haven't played, but think you should check out. And in the comments below, while you're typing about all of today's juicy topics, you let us know who gave the best recommendation and give one of your own. Yod, we'll go to you first.
Go play some RuneScape and get some property.
Get some property. Get you some property. Dom.
I've been playing a bit of the Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy. I've been going back and playing that, so we'll recommend that one.
In my love of all things Metroid, but my mediocre love of Metroid Prime 4, since it doesn't feel like a Metroid game, I have gone back and am now playing on my Switch 2 Metroid Dread, and I can't recommend that game enough. Go check out Metroid Dread. I know it's older, but I'm just reliving it again. Absolutely love it. That's going to do it for today's show. We'll be back next week. We have a show next week? Yes, we do have this show next week. We don't have the Relic Grind next week.
The weekly gaming wrap-up show.
Yeah, we don't have Relic Grind next week. We do have it this Thursday, but not next Thursday, because I'm getting things ready for the Winter Cup here in Pittsburgh for Final Fantasy,
and
the trading card
your
game.
birthday.
And, well, yeah, and yours too. That's going to do it for us. We'll be back next week with another episode of Gaming Gumbo. Until then, Yod, where can everybody find you?
Yacht Artworks on the social medias and here on Gaming Gumbo.
Dom.
Look, I don't post on social media. I don't care what you do following me, but I want to leave you with this fun fact. The song Chariots of Fire is just a slowed down dramatic version of On Top of Spaghetti.
I'm Mike Byrne, and I have to listen to that shit on and off of this show. You can follow me right down there at Magic Man 1, but more importantly, follow at RC Radio, and you'll know every time we're going live with a podcast, gaming, Final Fantasy, and more. Stay safe. We'll see you on the servers.